Thursday, January 3rd, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning, I will look at the markets as usual, but I will talk about them a bit more because they're really getting interesting. And how do I know that? Some of you might ask, you're sitting at home. How can you see that things are getting, kind of crazy? Well, for those of you who are new to the channel, I have been involved in markets since the late 80s. That's when I started out in Switzerland. I worked for over 20 years as a futures and options broker in the city of London. And that's what I want to talk about before I talk about the markets today. I'll talk about that first, and then I'll finish with the markets today. And even though it seems quite early, it's just about 8 a.m. London. And you might think, why you're up so early looking at the markets? Well, the futures market, they used to open a little later. I think in the early mid-90s, the main future in Europe was the Bund future. And that used to open maybe around 7:30. Maybe a little later. I don't remember exactly what time. And it all used to be traded on the floor of the exchange. But then the screens came, the 24-hour markets came, and we needed to be at our desks at 7 a.m. London. Why so early? Well, a lot of our clients were in the continent, in Europe, and they were 1 hour ahead, and their markets were open at 8 already, some of their futures market, and our futures market started opening early. You had the Treasury futures, CBOT, CME, COMEX, that also started trading 24 hours. You had what you call the Globex, which was the CME after hours system. Then you had Project A. So now everything is 24 hours. So we needed to be there just before 7, get ready on our desk, log into our systems. So I used to get up really early, even though where I lived back then was not that far, maybe 20 minutes from the center of London, 20 by train. But I needed to get the 6:10 train right from near my house. I could walk to the station. So I'd get up at 5, have my shower, get ready, and this is where it gets interesting. I'm going to talk about Billy's predecessor, and his name was Billy as well. And I'll come to why he is Billy as well in a minute. But as you can see here, Billy the First, as we used to talk about him when we just got Billy. Now we just call him the old Billy, the big Billy, because he was bigger than this Billy. We got him back in I think it was 1995. My wife and I had gotten married a couple of years before. Our daughter was born in 1996. So old Billy was kind of our first child, so to speak. And I used to walk him every morning before I left for work, old Billy, and he loved it. Around maybe 20 to 6 a.m. And I used to walk him for about 15 minutes. Shih Tzus don't need long walks. I'd leave him home and then, go to work. And old Billy died in 2008. He was about 13 and a half. He had a bad heart, so it wasn't nice, but he passed away. And then a few months later, towards the end of the summer, we started looking at other Shih Tzus, and I went to the Kennel Club in the UK, the Kennel Club's website, and I found a breeder near where we lived, and which is still near where we live now. And I called him, and he was very nice. And I said, have you got any puppies left? And he said, well, we've got only one left now, and he's a boy. And he asked me, do you mind, he already has a name. And I said, what's his name? And he said, Billy No Mates. And I said, oh, really? And for those of you who might not know the expression, Billy No Mates in England means someone who doesn't have any friends. Why did he call him Billy No Mates? Well, because his brothers and sisters had already been taken, been bought by other families. And Billy was like left on his own. Not totally on his own. His mom was there and his grandma was there. And there's another, Mr. Nichols lived on a farm, the breeder. And he had other dogs as well. So there were loads of dogs around, but all his siblings had gone. So it was Billy No Mates. So we decided to go and have a look. We were gonna buy him, really. We didn't tell our daughter that we are gonna go look at puppies. We made it a surprise, and we got there, you know, that was it. We saw Billy, and we said we gotta have Billy, and we always called him also the credit crunch puppy, because back then, I think it was right around just before Lehman collapsed that we bought Billy. Things weren't great at all. The credit crunch was here already. I think Northern Rock had collapsed already. RBS had to be bailed out. So the breeder had, you know, Billy up for sale. Couldn't sell him. So we actually got a Billy for almost half price. Not that he's not worth the full price, but that's what happens in credit crunches. You can get some real treasures for great value, and that's what we got Billy for. Did Billy walk? Because I still worked another few years in the city while the new Billy, or Billy the Second, was around. I did take him out a few times, but not very early. But he wasn't too much into that. You know, it was the first Billy, and there's a story about Billy the First. When my wife and I and my daughter went on holiday, we left him with my brother-in-law for a couple of weeks, and when we got back from our vacations, he complained, "Why does your dog get up at 5:30 every morning?" And my wife said, "Well, because he has to have his walk." And that's the story of Billy the First. And we kept the same name. They're very similar. Their colors, almost the same color. Well, they're virtually the same color. The thing is, old Billy was bigger. Their characters are a bit different. He was very nice as well, but he loved to be around the family, but he wasn't, you know, he wouldn't ask for cuddles like Billy does. And he used to like playing more, you know, running games, and like, he was rough, like to, you know, push him around. Billy is more gentle, I would say, but they were all very nice dogs. So that's the story. Let's get to the markets now. You're probably waiting to, you know, for the market report. I'm sorry about that, but I think it's good to talk about yourself when you're doing YouTube videos. Not all the time, but people get an idea of who you are, and Billy as well. So yesterday, you know, the markets were, well, overnight prior to yesterday, the markets rallied. First day of the year, was it? Yeah, the first trading day of the year. There were, the Dow was up over 100 points right after the open on the 1st of January, like at 6 p.m. New York. And then when I made my video early yesterday, the markets were down about 130. They got down to as much as, you know, they opened down 1.5%, but then it all started rallying. And then towards the end of the day, they were down, you know, the Dow was down about over 0.5% and over 100 points. And then magically, it closed up. And to be honest, I was watching the markets. I saw it was down like like 20, 25 minutes before. I saw it was down 120. And then the markets closed, and I looked, almost closed, and they were up, and I was like, whoa. So yeah, the Dow managed to eke out a 18-point gain, S&P 3-point gain, NASDAQ 30-point gain. But that was all she wrote for now, because Apple came out with some pretty bad news. After the close, Apple plunges 8% after cutting Q1 revenue guidance, blames China, Nasdaq tumbles. So that was out yesterday. The other thing I just mentioned in passing is President Trump's comment on the fact that the bad month of December was the glitch. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Trump, you don't know much about financial markets, because a glitch is when the systems fail or something and they have to shut the exchange. But a whole month of declines is not a glitch, it's a trend. Anyway, before I go on, I've got my Maneco 64 mug here this morning. If you are looking to support the channel a bit, there are other merchandises on the Teespring store. There's Billy mugs, Billy t-shirts, no Billy t-shirts, but there's End of Fed t-shirts and other stuff. You just need to look in the description for the link, the Maneco 64 Teespring store. So where are we this morning? Well, right now, gold has done well overnight. We've made a new high to 1292.50. Right now we're at 1288.70, still up above $4. Silver is doing very well. It's at 1558. The high's been 1575. And I want to show you this chart of silver here. It's a weekly chart of silver. So as you can see, this declining pennant, falling wedge, so to speak, it's built over. It's been building over for almost 3 years. And we're right on the resistance here, very close to breaking out. So I think silver is looking very good for now. I also think the gold-silver ratio is pointing to stronger silver prices. As you can see here, we topped around 86. We're now testing key support here at 83. So the further down that ratio goes, it means that silver is outperforming gold. And generally speaking, that's good for precious metals historically. So the stock market right now, the Dow is down 313 points, 23,022. It has been down over 400 points. The low has been 22,895. S&P is down 34, so also down 1.33%. Nasdaq 100 future is down 2.5%, below 6,200. The main thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of the markets today, that's, the main thing that's showing me there's something wrong. The system is broken. It was broken in 08. Nothing was fixed. The fix they gave, the analogy is like a drug addict has a overdose and then recovers. You keep giving him, keeps taking the drugs, and that's what this, that's what they did to the system. The system almost, collapsed in 08. What have they done to it? Nothing to reform it, really. Some cosmetic regulations and stuff. And what they've done is they've thrown more and more debt into it. And that's why I've kept, I've been saying for the last 2-3 years that eventually, this credit bubble will implode again. And I have to say, having worked in the markets and still following the markets every day, even since, since I've stopped working, in the city, I can tell you that there's something wrong here, especially with the foreign exchange, with, what people call the hard currencies. I know they're not hard currencies, but they call them that. The currencies that are controlled by the BIS that remain relatively strong to all the other currencies, which in my opinion I think is wrong anyway, because they're not really strong currencies. And I'm talking about the dollar, sterling, Japanese yen, Swiss franc, and in the old days it used to be all the other European currencies, right? Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, those currencies. Well, those currencies usually don't move as much as the emerging market currencies. We've seen, in 2018, how the real and how the Turkish lira were moving all over the shop like emerging market currencies are supposed to. And overnight, this is what's happened to our hard currencies. So in my opinion, that's a really bad sign for the whole system. It could be just a one-off. It could be a glitch, Mr. Trump, but I don't think so. So what was the most significant move overnight? Well, it was in the dollar yen. Just to give you an example, the high overnight has been almost 109. It was 108.94, and the low has been 104.72. I mean, if my client had called me today to see, Mario, what happened overnight? And I would have said, the yen traded down from 109 to 104.72. He would have said, what are you talking about? That must be a mistake. And I said, no. So that's a big thing. And the yen, and that's the dollar dropping, right? The dollar dropped against the yen, not the yen. And that's a bad sign because the yen is used as a funding currency. And that shows that people are worried about risk. Right now, the dollar yen is at 107.75. It has recovered from that dip, but it's still down 1%, and that's not a good sign. So keep an eye on the dollar yen. The lower the dollar goes against the yen, the worse it is for risk and the health of the system. The same thing happened to the pound. We dropped almost all the way down to 124. Low was 124.25. Now we're at 125.56. Still down almost 0.5%. And right now, euro has stayed quite steady. It's up a little bit against the dollar at 113.60. The dollar is down also against the Swiss franc. So yeah, the dollar is under pressure here, especially against the yen. Oil prices are down a little bit. WTI is down 2%. And the bond markets now as well. They're telling me that there's something also that's not right. All of you probably some of you have heard that the 1-year T-bill yield is now higher than the 2s, 3s, 5s, and 7 years. Well, and I can tell you, we're getting very close to that 1-year T-bill or 52-week T-bill yield being lower than the 10-year yield, because right now the 1-year T-bill yield is at 261 and the 10-year is at 263. So that's not a very good sign as well. If the Fed continues to raise rates like they've said they will, this is going to get even more interesting. So what do we do to protect ourselves? Well, I've been saying it for years. Have some of your savings. It depends. It's all up to you. I have what I have. You can have what you have. So have some of it outside this financial system. And the best way, in my opinion, is precious metals, physical gold and physical silver. Cryptocurrencies are more speculative, but they are outside the system. So let's keep an eye on this. Who knows? We could be up 500 by the end of the day. Things are so volatile, but I think there's something wrong. We don't get moves like this in the foreign exchange market, in the repo market like we saw a few days ago. And I think that repo rate's still going up. So institutions, financial institutions continue to lose confidence and trust in each other. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithms. Share it far and wide as well. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Twitter, DTube, and on Steemit. I wish you all a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.